honor roll institution because of the care that you give to our patients. So for everything, thank you doesn't seem like enough. It doesn't seem like those words kind of cover it, but they're the ones that we have. So for all of the treatment you give, we appreciate you. And sadly, we only get to celebrate in the Crane Garden once a year, and then our physician gala. But honestly, I hope that our units are taking these opportunities to celebrate with you as well. I have a very short job, which is really just to welcome you today to this incredible ceremony, but I can't stop because we are actually honoring a few people who will be introduced by other individuals. For me, the fact that we get today to honor Robert and Neil is absolutely amazing. It's funny because Dr. Robert Jackson sitting here in front of me, when the award came up and there was a discussion with all the nominations, everyone's first reaction to Dr. Jackson being nominated was, well, this is ridiculous, he's already won it. And it was like, no, wait, I don't think he has. We literally had to go back through the list 3 times because I think no one believed that he hadn't gotten the Overstreet Award before. He is the epitome of what it stands for and what it is. So again, you will get formally introduced, but congratulations, and for at least the 3rd time because everyone thinks you've already had it. Dr. Kleiman not being here, it's hard to tell you how many 1,000 conversations I feel like I've enjoyed with Dr. Kleiman over the years of how we move the patients through the system, what is working in the cath labs, what's not working in the cath labs, how do we get more cath labs, and through it all, he's that stalwart trooper that is not only teacher, not only mentor, but this incredible leader for all of us. And I'm ever so grateful for Dr. Kleiman. So I think you'll hear about our lifetime awards, our distinguished awards. We're so glad to have so many of you from our alumni come back and visit. But as I welcome up to the podium and turn the program over, we are going to have, well, Dr. Jackson gets to present and then be presented too, so we're all good. See why we thought he won it already. Dr. Jackson and Dr. Stasny join us up at the podium.
All right. Hi, folks. I'm Dick Stasny. We decided to change the name. Mark Boom graciously said we didn't have to call it retired physicians anymore because many of the physicians being honored are not retired. So we're going to call it the Distinguished Physician Association of Houston Methodist Hospital. And we picked, there was a group of about 10 past presidents of medical staff that picked the members. Many of you will be invited to join the Distinguished Physician Award, but the people that we're going to honor today are the people that are either retired or getting close to retirement. So we're going to go down the line and introduce 13 of our distinguished physicians who've been a godsend to this hospital and added immeasurably to the quality of care given by this institution.
Dr. Bradshaw, he can't make it.
Major Bradshaw couldn't come, one of my favorite people. I remember Major Bradshaw had an office up on the 8th floor with Temple Williams, and was a great asset to this hospital for infectious disease. Then we're going to give it to, we're going to take care of him. Bill Bryan's here, and Bill Bryan's going to practice for 2 more years, which is a great thing for total hips and total knees in this hospital. And Bill Bryan, come on up here. For those of you who don't know, Bill is a world-class enologist as well. And right there, and he got he was chairman of the wine committee at River Oaks Country Club for years, and that's probably the toughest committee to be on at River Oaks Country Club. So, thanks, Bill. Mike Caselli, fabulous surgeon, and retired a couple of years ago, but it's indeed another honor to welcome Mike to this distinguished group. Clement DeFelice, the guy that office next to me with Al Reisner and kept me from having to have a CPR set up in our office because we had them next door. So is Clement here? We'll give it to Al. Gary Flores. And Gary's still a working doctor here. And I think you've given me a round trip in the anesthesia operating room with one of my knees. So we're delighted to give this to Gary, who gives everybody a round trip. Yeah, that's the round trip. Rick Goldfarb. Some of the little trivia about Rick is he's a fabulous fisherman, and he also knows every bird that God ever made. So if you want to know the name of a bird or how to fly fish, this is your man right here. Thanks, Rick. Richard Harper. Yeah. Well, everybody knows Richard Harper and what a godsend he's been to the Department of Neurosurgery. Sam Law, I knew his daddy. His daddy was one of my instructors in general surgery. And his son is a football coach and teacher in high school. Great guy. He was a godsend to the OB-GYN department at Methodist Hospital. Thanks, Sam. Gary Manning, another person that likes to give people round trips in the anesthesia department. Looks like you've been a patient in this institution too, Gary. Juan, as opposed to Juan 2. Juan, I know Juan's here. There you are. So Peter's going to have a tough job keeping the nephrology department going as well as Juan started it off. Bob Park. I've known Bob for a long time. And he's been running the Veterans Hospital ENT department and doing a great job over there and was a fabulous surgeon here.
That's not the picture I sent in, by the way.
No, it didn't. It's a better picture. You sent a crummy picture. Rob Parrish, neurosurgeon, friend. Rob can't make it. He's maybe in Iraq saving lives as a colonel because he does that. But you're not going to. Okay. And Karen Woods. Karen said she's going to retire in 1 month. So you've got 1 more month to have her great expertise in GI. She's been fabulous. So, thanks. Now the Lifetime Achievement Award. We've got 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards to give. The first one will be for Ernest Max by Randy Bailey.
Thank you very much. It's great to have an opportunity to help honor Ernest Max, who was my partner for 40 years, one of my closest friends, and in many ways like my brother. Ernest was born in Vienna, Austria, March 30th, 1936. At age 3, his family immigrated to La Paz, Bolivia, to flee the Holocaust. You might ask, why Bolivia? Well, Bolivia was one of the few countries in the world that was giving visas to Jews to leave Europe at that point in time. It's interesting that after he got his visa stamped, Ernest's father, Fritz, went to the bookstore, bought an atlas so he could find out where they were going. They were allowed to leave with only one suitcase, no jewelry, and no money. To begin with, in Bolivia, his mother Rosa baked desserts and his father sold them to restaurants around the city. It didn't take very long for his father to become a successful salesman and later manager for a large chocolate and candy company. As Ernest grew up, it became apparent, unfortunately, that Bolivia was xenophobic and anti-Semitic. So as soon as he graduated from high school, he moved to Chile to study medicine and later surgery. There he met Sylvia, who was a native of Chile. On one of their first dates, to impress her even more, Ernest took her flying in a small private airplane. When they decided to marry, Ernest invited his parents to come and meet Sylvia. They had a great visit. They approved the marriage, but unfortunately, on their return to Bolivia, their plane crashed in the Andes and they were killed. I'm sure that nobody who knew Ernest is surprised to learn that he quickly developed a successful surgical practice. In fact, he and his partners acquired a small 16-bed surgical hospital, which he managed. He and Sylvia married in 1964, had 2 children, Yvette and Oliver. In order to further develop his surgical skills, he obtained a fellowship at the Leahy Clinic in Boston. There he spent 1 year working with internationally acclaimed surgeons, and at that time also developed his interest in colorectal surgery. His life and practice flourished in Santiago until 1971, when Chile elected a communist president, Salvador Allende. And I have a quote from Ernest, it's great. It said, "So in good Jewish tradition, and in the words of Willie Nelson, we were on the road again." I digress here to mention the fact that Ernest actually held 4 passports from different countries. Getting his green card to come to the United States was facilitated greatly by the fact that he had been born in Austria, because the United States had no quotas for Austrians. The Max family proudly became U.S. citizens in 1976, the 200th anniversary, or the birthday of our country. As was the case for almost all international graduates who come to the United States to practice medicine, Ernest had to repeat his surgical residency. Fortunately, his teachers recognized his talent and maturity so that he only had to do 3 of the usual 5 years to qualify for board certification in surgery. Finally, the journey gets to Houston. I met Ernest in 1974 when he came to do a colon and rectal surgery residency. He started his residency the same day that I started as an attending. To say the least, it was intimidating to have a trainee who had already practiced surgery for more than 5 years and was already a fellow of the American College of Surgeons. Having Ernest as a resident was really more like having another senior partner, and I frequently asked him for advice. I confess that I was less than enthusiastic when my partners discussed having Ernest join our practice at the end of his residency. I was just starting my practice and really didn't want to share the available patients with anyone. Ernest and I did compete, but I think it made us both better doctors. In addition to being a super surgeon, Ernest was also skilled in the business of medicine. He was instrumental in guiding our practice to its successful growth. I also confess that Ernest was the one who first recognized that Methodist Hospital was where the quality was and that where our practice should go and grow. We moved to the Smith Tower in 1990. Since Ernest arrived in 1974, the colon and rectal clinic grew from 3 to 14 surgeons. He was the second resident in our colon and rectal surgery training program, which now trains 4 surgeons a year and has more than 165 graduates. He had a long-term academic appointment from Baylor. He retired from clinical practice in 2011, but continued to manage our clinic for another 4 years. He and Sylvia traveled extensively around the world, and that gave him an opportunity to hone his photographic skills, which became quite professional. After retirement from clinical practice, he was president of the Methodist Alumni Association. That's what they used to call it until today. He also donated his extensive collection of antique surgical instruments to Methodist, of which he was very proud. These can be seen in the Horry Library. He also served as president of the Harris County Medical Society Retired Physicians Organization. Ernest left us on September 27, 2022, almost exactly 18 months ago. His last days were spent at Methodist Hospital, the hospital that he loved and which loved him. He leaves behind his wife of 58 years, Sylvia, 2 children, 4 grandchildren, many friends, more dedicated patients than we can count, and the staff of Houston Methodist Hospital who held him in high esteem. I can think of nobody more deserving for this honor than Ernest Max. I'm only sorry that he can't be here to receive it. Godspeed, Ernest, my friend and brother. Thank you.
The next Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Dan Jackson, Robert's daddy, who probably spent more time at Methodist Hospital than any other physician has ever spent. He started with the Rosalie Clinic downtown and moved with Methodist out here to the Texas Medical Center. So Stu Dobbs is going to talk about Dan Jackson. Stuart, you're on.
I know that. You want to give this back to Robert and have a picture taken with Robert?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll talk. Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. Jackson, you're getting too many awards. We're fighting over who gets to present to you, so that's what our hang-up is. So I'm going to start off. Happy Doctor's Day to everybody. Everybody who's here, everybody who's in the walls, who's working, keeping this place going. Reverend Milliken said it better than I could ever have. You know, we stand on the ground that we did not build, and we drink from the wells that we did not dig. And every day that I come here to work and I represent the medical staff, I have such a deep appreciation of the physicians and everyone who's been here for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years building this place to where it is today. My kids ask me almost every day if I, made the right choice in my career, if I still like being a doctor. And every day is, some days a little more than others, some days a little less than others, but no, I appreciate being a physician, but being a physician here is something special. Again, happy Doctor's Day to everybody. I find it a privilege to be a doctor and an honor to be a doctor here at Methodist Hospital for what the administration does for us and for what we do for each other. It's an honor to be able to present awards today to people who honestly helped shape my career, who helped lead and guide me to where I am today, if by nothing else, just being who they are. Dr. Jackson has always been a great mentor to many of us in internal medicine. We modeled ourselves after the way he takes care of patients and the way he interacts with people. Dr. Kleiman, to be perfectly honest with you, scared me to death when I first started practice by doing nothing but being really, really good. And I mean, never had I had a bad interaction with him by any means, but just the force that he is was honestly something to respect. And so to both of these men who are going to get a formal introduction today and a formal speech, congratulations to you both. I know this is a big deal because Stuart Solomon's wearing a shirt and tie, or shirt and coat, so if that doesn't tell you something, that tells you how important this is. So I'm going to let Dr. Solomon, our past president, present to our first award winner.
Before I get into what I have written, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time because I wrote this and I'm going to read it because I want to get it right. It's that important. I said this last year. This is one of the happiest things that I have ever gotten to do in my medical career, and I'm honored that I can be in front of you today to talk about someone who has nothing but my utmost respect. So I apologize if I don't look around as much as I might normally do, but I do want to get this correct. As physicians, we must all wear hats, shoulder enormous responsibilities, and balance competing and conflicting ideas for the ultimate benefit of our patients. If we are fortunate enough to do so, we can educate and influence the next generation to achieve more than we have done. This is what teachers do. Dr. John Overstreet, who many of you never knew, was the personification of these characteristics. This afternoon, it is my honor and my sincerest pleasure to introduce the first of our two awardees, Dr. Neil Kleiman. While no one would ever mistake them for brothers, they are far more alike than not. Dr. Kleiman was born in 1957 in Staten Island, New York, a product of public school education. He then went on to Princeton University as an undergraduate, Columbia University Medical School, and Baylor College of Medicine for the internal medicine residency and cardiology fellowship. That included 1 year of interventional cardiology training where I first met him. Only 4 years my junior, I knew I was already outmatched. Very early on, I realized that he had that thing, that spark that all of us who teach recognize, yet we rarely get to see. As a fellow, he excelled in the cath lab and also had a tremendous interest in the application of bench research to clinical practice. There are few people in this country and perhaps in the world who have done as much clinical research with platelet physiology as it applies to all areas of cardiology. That interest extended from the treatment of myocardial infarction early on to PTCA, intravascular ultrasound, thrombosis, and restenosis. All the while, Neil was one of, if not the busiest interventional cardiologist at Houston Methodist. In addition, he maintained an extremely busy teaching and clinical practice. We were very fortunate to keep him and his colleagues in 2004 with the Baylor Methodist split. Let's now fast forward about 6 years. In about 2010, Neil must have become bored because he was on the first team at our hospital and one of the first in the country to begin doing TAVR routinely. For those of you who don't know the initials, it's transaortic valve replacement. I have no idea how many he has done, nor how many he has educated in this technique. However, I think something north of 2,000 patients would be a very reasonable guess. Oh, I forgot one detail. For approximately the last 20 years, Neil has been the director of the cardiac catheterization laboratories here at Methodist. That involves countless meetings, phone calls, capital decisions, disciplinary actions, and the wearing of many hats simultaneously. His skills were never more apparent than during the COVID shutdown, where he and only a few others quite literally made life and death decisions on a daily basis and fought so incredibly hard to keep our doors open. Earlier, I mentioned Neil's research interests. Just to back up that statement, here are a few little statistics I discovered. Principal or co-investigator in 350 clinical trials. Author or co-author in 484 peer-reviewed articles in the literature. 95, quote, other publications. 19 book chapters and 153 abstracts. And for those of you keeping count, that's 1,101 original contributions to our profession. Okay, so that's Dr. Neil Kleiman. Now I want to tell you about Neil Kleiman, the person. He's married to his long-suffering and wonderful wife, Maureen. They met in medical school, and they married in 1981. Together they have 3 children and now 3 grandsons. So for fun, he likes ice climbing. Not simple mountains, but ice climbing in the dead of winter, and don't ask me why. You can ask him. Okay, he has a fondness for fast cars, and to support that habit, he actually drives a Porsche, a 1987 Porsche that barely clears the road in good weather and somehow has managed to still be street drivable. How he survived Houston's floods and hurricanes is totally beyond my comprehension. He and Maureen recently purchased a small ranch in the hill country where he continues his love of fast cars by driving a completely beat-up Silverado truck. For fun at the ranch, he likes to use a chainsaw and chopping wood. And I think with that, I'm going to let one of our past honorees, psychiatrist Dr. Ranjit Chacko, deal with the implications. All right, earlier I told you that Neil was born and raised in New York and is, by admission, a die-hard Yankees fan. When I interviewed Maureen for some background on today's speech, she told me something that personifies Neil perfectly. This Saturday, he's taking his 6-year-old grandson to the Astros-Yankees game. His grandson is a die-hard Astros fan. He's not. It ought to be interesting. Before I close, I'd like to say publicly how much I have appreciated Neil's friendship, camaraderie, expertise, and advice in all things personal and professional in the last 37 years. I am so glad that that spark turned into what I would consider to be an out-of-control forest fire. Just 2 days ago, I finished a procedure in our catheterization laboratory. I went to an adjacent lab to ask one of our staff a question, and there was Neil supervising 4 fellows and all personnel with a STEMI patient who had just come in that morning. Enough said. I now give you Dr. Neil Kleiman, a most worthy recipient of this award.
Well, I'm not a good public speaker, so I'll keep this brief. Stuart, first of all, that was the most amazing and kindest things that I've ever heard anyone say about me. You make me out to be 2 years younger than I really am. Thank you. So I've got to say I'm really humbled by this award. I'm shocked and unquestionably pleased to have received it. And, you know, to me, truthfully, this is motivation to keep doing and keep trying to be better. And I felt very proud this morning in clinic. I said to myself, I'm receiving this award. I want to try and be the best doc I can for every patient that I see. Now, as a little bit of humor, Stuart told you that, you know, we share responsibilities for running the cardiac catheterization lab. And as you can imagine, some of those responsibilities are a lot of fun, and some are rather stressful. So 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Stuart that said, Neil, we need to talk. Click. Actually, it didn't say click. He said, we need to talk. And by the way, has Peter Wynn called you? And I was sure that there was a raging forest fire we were going to have to put out. I was really worried. And, you know, the truth is, I was really stressed because I had some ideas as to what it would involve and trying to decide what I would say to the involved individual. So fortunately, you know, I was going away that weekend, and 2 days later, Stuart called me, and I said to myself, oh no, here it goes. And he said, you've been awarded the Overstreet Award. And Stuart, I got to say, that was an incredible relief. So, look, we're part of a huge community. We all work together. I mean, I obviously want to thank the people who nominated and chose me for the award. And I really want to thank everyone else here with whom we've all worked for years. So thank you very much, guys and gals. And I do want to, the one last thing is Stuart mentioned my long-suffering wife, Maureen, who's fortunately here. I would say long-suffering is an understatement. I'd say long, incredibly suffering. So Maureen, thank you for supporting me through this when you wanted to and when you didn't want to. So thank you, and to my colleagues, thank you.
So I want to bring Dr. Stuart Dobbs to the podium. He's our, as you know, our Chief Quality Officer, former award winner, and he's going to give Dr. Jackson his due.
Thank you, Peter. And I want to start by, again, thanking Peter for giving the two Stuarts the opportunity to present these awards today. It's not often we get to do that, so again, thanks to Peter. I want to start by talking about two very special people that you've already heard a little bit about today. The first one is Dr. Overstreet. Dr. Overstreet was an incredible leader, and it's nice to talk to this group because some people in this group actually knew Dr. Overstreet. And the average day walking around in the hallways, people don't understand the contributions that Dr. Overstreet made to our hospital and to our medical staff and to our patients. His integrity and strength and conviction were second to none. Dr. Overstreet knew who he was and knew who he wanted us to be and pushed to get us in that direction by letting us know all the time by his actions of his core values. He never had to say, let's put the patients first, because he always put the patients first. His level of professionalism was also second to none. And if I say that word once, I have to talk about that word every single day in our hospital. He personified that professionalism and really made uncountable contributions to us and to future leaders by his presence here. The second person I wanted to mention was Dr. Jackson, Dr. Dan Jackson, Robert's dad. He was an incredible internist and had a level of judgment and thought and insight that most of us only strive to achieve in our career. I'll tell you a quick story about Dan Jackson. Early in my career, Dan called me and said, I want you to scope this lady. She turns out to have been around 80 at that time. Not only was she his patient for 30 years, but he also played cards with her once a week for many years. So I said, well, Dan, what's wrong with this lady? He said, well, she's nauseated. And I said, okay, well, let's bring her over and we'll get her scoped. Well, she came to my office and I took her history. She had only been nauseated for 35 years. And I could not figure out for the life of me why Dr. Jackson wanted me to scope this lady who had the same symptom for 35 years. So I said, okay, we'll do this. And I called Dr. Jackson on the phone. And I said, Dan, why do you want me to scope this lady? And Dan said, because I want you to scope this lady. She's nauseated. And I said, Dan, she's been nauseated for 35 years. And I said, okay. He said, just scope her and let's see what's in her stomach. So I did. I scoped her. She had a small 1 centimeter antral cancer that is not possible for anyone to have known it was there. But Dr. Jackson knew there was something different about this lady. Dr. Overstreet then resected her antrum, and for the next 5 or 6 years before she died, she had no difficulty with her gastric cancer. And I tell you that story because Dr. Jackson embodies a type of knowledge of patients and understanding of patients that most of us never achieve. Dr. Robert Jackson has strived to achieve those very same characteristics and has done a great job taking care of very complex and difficult patients in our hospital. I can't start to talk about Robert yet without mentioning bow ties. And actually, when I Googled around last night to try to find something funny about bow ties, I really couldn't find anything that was funny. But I did learn that, that bow ties were introduced to the world in the Prussian War in the 17th century. And this is the first time I ever knew that Dr. Jackson was actually there. So a few words about Robert. Robert has an incredible set of core values. He has never said no to me with anything that I've asked him to do or lead in our hospital. He has always been driven by his own core values. And it's pretty interesting when when one asks Dr. Jackson to do something, because he very quickly goes through his own values and how what you've asked him to do will influence him, your hospital, your patients, and your environment. And he's going through those core value issues while he's talking to you. And so then what comes out is usually the concept that yes, he will help. And because he always says yes, and because he's always trying to make things better, he has given hours and hours and hours to other outside entities as well to help to represent us as a medical leader. These contributions have allowed him to be the governor of the American College of Physicians in our part of the state of Texas. He is now the president of the Harris County Medical Society, again, representing us in a very, very enlightened way. He's a past president of our medical staff and was also a leader of our early quality management activities here at Methodist Hospital as well. And I want to tell you 2 quick stories about Dr. Jackson before we ask him to come up. There was a time, I would say probably 20 years ago, that Dr. Jackson and I went fishing together. But we didn't go fishing together in the daytime. We went fishing together in the nighttime. We got a guide who had lights around his boat, and he picked us up at the dock around 5:30 in the afternoon, and we got out to the place we were going to fish, and we set up this fishing area, and we fished there until 2 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know what was different about that day, but every time the guide threw his cork out, he caught a fish. Every time I threw mine out, he caught a fish. I caught a fish. When Dr. Jackson sent us out, nothing happened to his. We were in the same place at the same time with the same bait. No idea what that all meant. But Dr. Jackson liked to go casting while the rest of us liked to go fishing. And the last story I'll tell you, which so much embodies who Dr. Jackson is a situation one day many years ago, probably 20, 25 years ago also. Dr. Jackson called me and said, I want to talk to you. I want to have breakfast with you. So with two busy schedules, we met at 6:30 over in the hotel to have breakfast. We had breakfast that morning. And at the end of breakfast, Dr. Jackson said to me, I'm tired of these types of things that you asked me to do in the hospital. I'm tired of these leadership roles. I'm tired of this, and I'm tired of that. And I said, okay, Robert, that's great. And he said, I want to resign my positions of all these things that I've been doing, and I don't want to do these anymore. So we chatted for a minute. I thought about it for a second. And I said, Robert, it takes two people to resign. It takes one person to resign and one person to accept that resignation. I do not accept your resignation, and get yourself back to work, please. I didn't use those words, but I cleaned it up a little. And Robert has been an active part of our medical staff, past president, leader of MSQM, our peer review organization, for all these years. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. Jackson, who's done such a beautiful job of helping us to develop and maintain the quality of the care we deliver with incredible leadership, incredible level of involvement. Robert, thank you. We have a couple of pictures.
Stuart, thank you so much for such an eloquent introduction. You will have my resignation on your desk tomorrow morning. But seriously, I'm truly honored to receive this award. The past awardees really are a who's who of terrific physicians and medical staff leaders. And I'm humbled now to be a member of the recipients of the John Overstreet Award. I'm particularly glad that my co-recipient, Dr. Neil Kleiman, is also being honored. Where is Neil? Neil and I trained together at Baylor College of Medicine. He became a superstar cardiologist, famous in America, famous in the world, and I just became a country doctor. So, Neil, congratulations. Very much deserved award. I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for previous leaders who really gave me my chance. Dr. Bob Weimer, I don't think Bob's here today, but he appointed me as my first chairmanship. Dr. Andy Smith there, he had faith in me and appointed me to different committees. And of course, Dr. Stuart Dobbs, who every time I tried to resign, he just gave me more work to do. And appreciate it, Stuart. And also, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the support of my wonderful office staff. Teresa, who's been with me for 26 years, Lorena, Sylvia, and Gracie. You know, you're only as good as your front lines, and you all are the best. But really, I wouldn't be able to accomplish all that I've done if it wasn't for the love and full support of my dear and beautiful wife, Alicia. Thank you, Alicia. We literally stand on the shoulders of giants. There's Dr. DeBakey's statue behind us there. He gave the very first hospital-wide grand rounds when Methodist and Baylor separated almost 20 years ago. Dr. Bill Winters was the first chair of education when we were getting on our feet. Many of you don't know, but Bill did the first echocardiogram in the basement of Methodist Hospital. My father, Dr. Dan Jackson, he founded the first pulmonary lab here at Methodist Hospital, and he was the last living physician to have made rounds at the original Methodist Hospital. So we're here now in the Dunn Towers Crane Garden. Dr. Edward Lillo Crane was a soft-spoken internist here for many years. And when he passed away, I looked at his obituary and I went, oh my gosh, who would have thought that Lillo was a war hero? He served in the 1st Marine Division as a medical doctor. In Okinawa, he rescued many wounded soldiers, and he himself was wounded. And for his valor, he received the Purple Heart, because he was wounded, the Silver Star, and the Navy Cross. For those of you who don't know this, the Navy Cross is right under the Medal of Honor. Most people who receive the Navy Cross died too, just like the Medal of Honor. Who would have thought Lillo Crane was such a war hero? But people like him, Dr. DeBakey, my dad, they built this hospital. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize John Overstreet, for whom this award was named. Not only was Dr. Overstreet a wonderful leader and really representative of professionalism, chairman of the Department of Surgery here at Methodist for many years, but he participated in the Normandy invasion that liberated Europe. And then he participated in the invasion of Iwo Jima, liberating the armed forces in the Pacific. So when I say we stand on the shoulders of giants, this is not hyperbole. And finally, I will take the cue from President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who, when advising a young speaker, he said, "Be brief, be sincere, and be seated." Thank you very much.
Again, I want to thank everyone for coming out here today. I want to again congratulate our 2 award winners. I'm glad that the 2 stewards were able to speak on their behalf. I couldn't say enough about both of y'all. I want to thank Dr. Dobbs and Dr. Solomon as well for everything that they do for this hospital, and for our distinguished physicians who are honored today. Again, Reverend Milliken said it better than I ever could have. Thank you for digging the wells that we drink from, and for creating the ground that we stand on. To stand on the shoulders of giants, and we recognize and appreciate that every day. So, great round of applause to everybody honored today, please. The last thing for today, it never ceases to amaze me how many talents people in this medical staff have. We have our Center for Performing Arts and Medicine, and we have Dr. Andrea Quarti, Dr. Miguel Quinones, who are going to perform for us. And so, introduction to them, and thank you everybody for coming out today.
Yes. Yeah. No, you can tell this. I'm not going to speak.
Okay. All right. Okay. We start?
Yes, I don't know.
I'm just going to say something. Hello, everybody. Many of you do not know Dr. Quarti, Andrea. He is one of our most recent recruits to the Methodist DeBakey Heart and Vascular Center. Some of you know, a few years ago, we started a congenital heart program for adults. And one of the things one needs to have a complete program is an excellent surgeon for doing that. And we were extremely lucky with the help of one of our faculty, Dr. Duarte, that we found Dr. Quarti in Italy. And we recruited him, and he is a terrific surgeon. He's doing wonderful work in surgery. But lo and behold, turned out that Dr. Quarti is also fully trained opera singer. And you will hear him soon. So we were asked if we would do a few songs here, some opera here. Turns out that I'm illiterate when it comes to music. I cannot read a single word, so I had to play by ear. So I said, okay, we'll do a few simple songs, okay? So enjoy this.
Video mare quanto è bello, spira tanto sentimento, come tu chi tiene a mente, cascetato fai sonna. Guarda qua chi sto giardino, sento si sciura arance, lo profuma così fino, dinto cuore se ne va. E tu dici ho parto addio, calore tale ne stucone, donata cuore non torna, ma non me la sa, non è darme sto tormento, torna sognare.
Now you know who Dr. Quarti is.
brisa serena dopo una tempesta e l'aria fresca pare già una festa. Che bella cosa una giornata e sole. Manato sole, più bella in me, oh sole mio, son pronto a te. Oh sole mio, son pronto a te, son pronto a te. Mannato sole, più bello in me, oh sole mio, son pronto a te, oh sole, oh sole mio, son pronto a te. Stai ne frate a te.
Thank you.
No more? Okay. All right. That was just a taste of Dr. Quarti. Hopefully, we'll do a few more in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's easy to see why we made that last. No one can follow that. Happy Doctor's Day to everybody. Dr. Quarti.
Sweet child of mine. Oh, testing. Yeah, okay. Hello. Welcome to my recital. My name's Timothy George. I'm a second-year emergency medicine resident at UT Health Houston, just next door. We got some representation here from the residency. I got my Bachelor of Music in Piano Performance from UT Austin, and today I'll be performing a selection of solo and collaborative works for y'all. The first piece is by French Impressionist composer Debussy. It's entitled Reverie, which translates to Daydream. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Can y'all hear? Yeah? Okay. Cool. Then the next piece is by Russian composer Sergei Rachmaninoff, his Prelude in G minor, Opus 23, number 5. Thank you. Now we're going on to the collaborative half. I'd like to invite Katia Osorio up here. She is my bassoonist, or a bassoonist, and mine. She is a friend from undergrad. We both went to UT Austin together. She got her Bachelor of Music in Bassoon Performance. and then went on to Yale to get her master's and is now back at UT getting her Doctor of Musical Arts. She frequently performs in Houston with the Houston Grand Opera, and she's also part of a chamber group here called the Monarch Chamber Players. We'll be playing a piece by French pianist and composer Gabriel Grovlet. It's in two parts called Sicilienne, which is an opening Baroque dance, e Allegro Giocoso, which is a jovial, peppy closing section. It is for, yeah, I guess that's it. All right, let's get started. So the next piece is with piano and soprano, and now I'm going to invite Jenna Owen up. She's my best friend from high school. We went to Deer Park High School together, have a lot of our old choir teachers here with us to support us. Sorry, retired? I don't know. Jenna went to LSU to get her Bachelor of Music in Vocal Performance, went on to University of North Carolina at Greensboro to get her Master's in Vocal and Opera Performance. We'll be performing a set of 7 Spanish songs by composer Manuel de Falla. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. We do have one little extra piece. I'll invite Katya back up here to play. Gonna be Estrellita by Manuel Ponce, a Mexican composer, initially for voice and orchestra, but arranged by Catherine Chen for piano and bassoon. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you especially to both of my collaborators for doing a fantastic job and rehearsing with me, and to Methodist Center for Performing Arts Medicine for having me back. Hope you'll have a good, thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good one.
You really work here as a doctor.
I was a